Today, we're going to talk about Aavegotchi. This was a project that basically tried to give digital pets their own bank accounts. Seriously, it was one of the wildest and, honestly, most memorable ideas to come out of that crazy era of NFTs and DeFi. So, we're going to explore what it was, what happened after that 2021 boom went bust, and its big move to a whole new blockchain to try and survive.
Man, do you remember the absolute frenzy of 2021? NFT games. This whole idea of GameFi, blending gaming and finance, they were just everywhere. It felt like every single week there was some new project that was going to totally revolutionize gaming. The hype was just off the charts. But, well, we all know that party didn't last forever. So, what happened to all those games that were at the center of it all?
Aavegotchi was right there, smack in the middle of the spotlight. This wasn't just another collectible project, It was this fascinating experiment trying to mash up the worlds of digital pets, decentralized finance, and online gaming all into one thing. And for a while there, it really captured everyone's imagination. So what really made Aavegotchis so special? The core idea, when you boil it down, was kind of brilliant in its simplicity. It was all about this question. What if your digital collectible wasn't just a cool picture, but actually had its own bank account built right in?
And here's how that whole bank account thing worked. Every single Aavegotchi ghost, each NFT, is backed by these interest-bearing crypto assets called A tokens from the Aave DeFi protocol. Now, what this means is that every NFT has a real, intrinsic value that's constantly growing because it's always earning yield. It's a pretty powerful idea, right?
The whole project was really built on these four big pillars. First, you had the classic NFT collectibles, scarcity and uniqueness. Then you had actual gaming mechanics to make it fun. Then you had the powerful economic engine of DeFi plugged into it, and the whole thing was steered by the community through a DAO. I mean, talk about ambitious.
For a user, the whole journey was this complete circle. First, you'd summon your ghost. Then, you'd stake collateral to kind of bring it to life. After that, you'd jump into the Gotchaverse to play games, equip items, and level up your little guy. And all the while, as a holder, you got a direct say in the project's future through the DAO.
And the fuel for this whole ecosystem was the GHST token. It was, well, everything. You used it for governance, to vote in the DAO, it was the main currency you'd use on their internal marketplace, the bazaar, and it was your ticket to get into special events and games. It was literally the economic lifeblood of the entire Aavegotchi world.
But, as we all know, crypto markets move in cycles. The insane hype of 2021 eventually gave way to a long, hard crypto winter. And Aavegotchi, just like pretty much every other project out there, had to face a brand new reality.
This timeline really shows the whole journey perfectly. You got 2021 at the absolute peak of hype and visibility. Then comes 2022, and the market just falls off a cliff. But look, the story doesn't end there. It leads to this huge strategic decision in 2024, a big pivot to a new blockchain called Base.
And the effect of that bear market was, well, it was harsh, and it was immediate. As soon as people lost interest in NFTs and Web3 gaming, Aavegotchi's key numbers just cratered. Trading volume on their marketplace dried up, and the number of active players in the Gotchaverse took a nosedive. For a minute there, it really seemed like the party was over.
But this is where the story gets really interesting. Aavegotchi didn't just fade away into nothing. While it definitely wasn't a huge mass market thing anymore, it managed to hold on to this core group of super dedicated, loyal users. It went from being a project defined by hype to one that was defined by its community.
So faced with a much quieter market and a smaller but really dedicated user base, the Aavegotchi DAO made a super bold move. Instead of just sitting around and waiting for the market to come back, they decided to get proactive and seek out a new home, a fresh start.
And what's really amazing about this is just how unified the community was. The proposal to literally move the entire project from its original home on Polygon over to Base, Coinbase's new Layer 2 network, it passed the DAO vote with an insane majority of over 90%. I mean, that just shows you how active and on the same page that core community really was.
So why the move? Well, the thinking behind it was pretty clear. On Polygon, the ecosystem was getting really crowded, and the user experience could be a bit complicated for newcomers. Base, on the other hand, offered a chance to plug directly into the massive Coinbase user base. Plus, you get lower fees and a simpler setup for the developers. It was a strategic choice. Ultimately, it all came down to this.
The move was a big bet on growth and accessibility. The core team and the DAO basically decided that if they wanted to attract the next wave of users, they had to make the experience as smooth as possible and put themselves right in the middle of a growing, thriving ecosystem.
Okay, so that brings us to Aavegotchi today. The migration is done. The ghosts have all settled into their new home on Base. So, what's the real, honest state of the project right now?
So here's the balance tick. Aavegotchi is absolutely not a dead project, but it's also not the market leader it once looked like it might become. The DAO is still active, development is still happening, and the team is really focused on building for its existing community. You could say it's a survivor, but it's now in a much quieter, more focused building phase.
Looking ahead, you can kind of imagine 3 realistic futures for Aavegotchi. The positive one? Gamified gets popular again, the base ecosystem explodes, and that brings a flood of new users into the Gotchiverse. The neutral scenario? It just keeps on being what it is, a stable, niche project for its loyal fans. And then there's the negative outcome, where it just slowly loses relevance and users to newer, shinier games.
And that really leaves us with a million-dollar question. Aavegotchi was a pioneer. It survived the crypto winter and made a really bold move to secure its future. But in the crazy, fast-moving world of Web3, is a strategic move to a new home really enough to recapture that old magic and bring a ghost from a past era back into the spotlight? I guess only time will tell.
The story of Aavegotchi is just a fascinating case study at this intersection of NFTs, DeFi, and gaming. Its future now really depends less on market hype and a lot more on its ability to actually keep and attract users on its new home. As always, this is just for educational purposes. Never, ever forget to do your own research.